But one of the things he says, if you love me, you'll obey me. He says you have to be eating his flesh and drinking his blood. So how do you do that?
To my knowledge, through the Holy Eucharist.
Well, see, now you're a Catholic, then you're not Protestant, are you? Because here is what Jesus says. How do you share in his atonement? Right here, I gave you. You don't need to know Greek because I'm not a Greek scholar, and I don't pretend to be, and I don't care to be a scholar, really. I know there are people who want to be scholars. I don't care to be a scholar. I don't want to be recognized as a scholar. Anyway, I don't want human accolades. I want Jesus to love me and forgive me and purify me, and I trust in his grace. So one thing you're going to note, I just sent you the link. If you go here, it says o trogon, the on makes it what they call, and I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to show you. It's a present participle active, meaning it's an ongoing action.
Okay.
A present participle means ongoing action. That's why I notice it says the one eating. It's ongoing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how do you continue to eat of Jesus's flesh? How are you continuing drinking? See, notice the on, pinon.
Mm-hmm.
You see it says drinking, and the one drinking of me.
Mm-hmm.
Present active participle means it's an ongoing action.
Gotcha.
So how do you continually eat the flesh and drink the blood of Christ? Well, obviously, doing what he tells you to do. But if we take the flesh and blood of Christ, not simply metaphorical, that we metaphorically gnaw on him, but there's a sense in which we need to actually physically eat the flesh and drink the blood of Christ. Well, that's the miracle of the Eucharist. And so what he procured on the cross, your eternal redemption and the forgiveness of all sins done after baptism, is yours when you partake of his flesh and drink of his blood. Because he says, if you're doing this, then you will have the life of the age to come. And then he will resurrect you in the last day and make you immortal. It's right there, right?
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I've read all of the New Testament, and I guess I never read it this way or understood it this way, as I'm seeing it as you're presenting it.
Yeah, because everyone inherits a set of traditions, assumptions, depending on what tradition you've inherited or what tradition you believe, it will impact how you read these statements.
Yeah, that's right.
Historically, Christians have always taught, this is a fact, that in the Eucharist, Christ is giving to us his flesh and blood, his physical flesh and blood, in the Eucharist sacramentally, right? So that when we feed off of the Eucharist, we are feeding off the flesh and blood of Christ, because his life becomes our life. And I'll explain that. I'll expound that in a minute. But I want to add to you the other part of that verse, because that was John 6:54. But I want you to see what he says in 55. Okay, so we're going to read it right here. John 6:53, 55. Jesus therefore said to them, most certainly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you don't have life in yourselves. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I'll raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is food indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. The word there, real, means true. Not that the food you eat is fake, but the food you eat only sustains your physical body and for a short period of time. In fact, the food you eat can even poison your body and shorten your lifespan, right?
Yeah.
So this food you're eating is a shadow of the true food, because the flesh of Christ and the blood of Christ gives you real life. Remember when Jesus said, enter life maim?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the real life? The life to come, right? Of the age to come?
Yep.
All right. So how then do you obtain that? By the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. But just like you need food to sustain this physical body as it dies, you need the food of the age to come to sustain you forever. What food sustains you forever for the life to come?
The Holy Eucharist right now.
Well, that's what it is, because he says, the flesh of me, aletis, true food. Aleti, I mean, this is true food. This is real food. The food you eat is a shadow, and that can only give you temporary nourishment because you're going to still die. But this is the real, true food that will sustain you forever. Eletis estin posis, right? True. See?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So, is there any correlation, or does it have to do anything, like whenever Jesus told the disciples, I have food that you don't know anything of?
That's differently, meaning that his entire existence and purpose in coming to the world is to fulfill the will of the Father. That's John 4:31 and 34. That's in a different context, as he's talking about that the real food that God has given him is to fulfill the will of the Father. Nothing
Mhm.
else matters.
Okay.
But it connects with this here earlier. Let me show you. What I just read to you in John 6:53 to 55 is an expansion, elaboration of what he said earlier. John 6:27, 36. Don't work for the food which perishes. See why I said the food you eat sustains you metabolically, but even then, temporarily, because you're going to die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So don't work for the food which perishes, but for the food which remains to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For God the Father has sealed him. They said, therefore, to him, what must we do that we may work the works of God? What kind of work does God require us to do to have this food that will give us incorruptible, everlasting life? Jesus answered them, this is the work of God, that you believe in him. And the tense is that you are believing in him, ongoing belief, whom he has
Mm-hmm.
sent. They said, therefore, to him, what then do you do for a sign that we may see and believe you? What work do you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread out of heaven to eat. So God gave us a sign during time Moses. He rained bread from heaven. What sign do you give to show us that you are speaking from God? Jesus therefore said to them, most certainly I tell you, it wasn't Moses who gave you the bread out of heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread out of heaven. Notice that word true again.
Mm-hmm.
My flesh is true food and my blood is true drink.
Mm-hmm.
Here's that word again, true bread out of heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world. They said therefore to him, Lord, always give us this bread. See, always be giving us this bread that will give us the life of the age to come. Never ending, incorruptible life. Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will not be hungry. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But I told you, you have seen me, and yet you don't believe. All right, now, here's my question. The manna that they ate, did they actually eat it physically? Was it actual substantial bread that they ate?
Yes.
Just like they ate real quails and they
Mm-hmm.
drank real water, right?
Yeah.
So if Jesus says the manna is a picture of foreshadowing of the true bread that comes down from heaven, and they ate that bread physically, then how do you eat Jesus physically?
With the Holy Eucharist.
There you go.
So, like, being somebody who can receive the atonement that was made by Jesus Christ, in the Catholic faith, it's you believe in him and obey him and partake in the Holy Eucharist.
That's how you share in his atoning sacrifice, because it's not just a sacrifice to pay the debt of sin.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sacrifice that you must partake of and eat, because even the priests, they would end up eating some of the sacrificial meat, right? That was offered.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So then it's not just the Catholic Church, by the way, because this is where it's going to broaden your perspective. This has been the teaching of the church from as far back as you can trace it, meaning from the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
less people want to say, well, yeah, but the Gospels, you interpret that metaphorically. Well, the earliest Christians, the closest to the apostles, their very heirs and successors, didn't interpret it metaphorically. They took the Eucharist as becoming the actual flesh and blood of Christ. This is unanimous. Proof of it is this. You focus on the Catholics as if they're the only ones. Are you aware that right now in my chat, in my live stream, there are Oriental Orthodox, meaning those who would be Coptic or Syriac Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Syrian Church, and Catholics, and they all agree the Eucharist becomes the flesh and blood of Christ?
Oh, I was gonna say I didn't know if that's what the Orthodox Church also believed as well.
Better believe they do. There is no ancient church that goes back to the apostles that denies the Eucharist is the actual flesh and blood of Christ. None.
Okay.
None. Nada. Zip. In fact, they're in my comment section. In fact, there is no ancient church that goes back to the time of the apostles that do not make the center of their worship the Eucharist. All of them are liturgical churches. All of them celebrate the Mass and the Eucharist daily and on Sunday in particular. How do you explain this commonality among these churches that are in schism and not in full communion?
Well, that's the way it had to have been from the beginning. And
You got it.
so regardless of where things have diverged,
Yep.
it was there in the beginning.
But now what about eating the flesh and drinking the blood of Christ? I'm going to bring you back here. Remember what God said here? Do not eat the blood of an animal. Why? Because the blood of the animal is connected with the soul that gives life to the flesh of the animal, right?
Yeah.
And so if you eat the blood of the animal, you're eating the life animal. Pretty much you're ingesting the life animal. You're making that animal's life your life, right?
Yeah.
And he says, instead, the blood of the animal that represents the animal died. Why? Because note the connection. God has designed that the soul that animates my body will only remain in my body or in the body of an animal as long as there's blood in that body, right?
Yeah.
If you start shedding the blood from the body, that is God's cue for the soul to exit. God has decreed soul must leave your body when your body's being drained of blood, right?
Right.
So when you bring the blood of an animal on the altar, what does that mean? The animal has died, right?
Yes.
Why? Because there will be no soul remaining in the animal's body, animating the body, if the blood is drained.
That's correct.
Okay, because I want you to see the logic why Jesus eats the flesh and blood. I'm not boring you. I'm trying to hammer it because you're not going to say, oh, now I see why. So that's why he says, the blood I gave you, not to eat, but to present it on the altar to make atonement for your souls. Now, how does it make atonement? For it is the blood that makes atonement by reason of the life. What does that mean? Does God not say in Ezekiel 18, verse 4 and Ezekiel 18, verse 20, the soul that sins shall die?
Mm-hmm.
So if you sin, we must die. Our souls must leave our body. But God doesn't want you to die. He wants to extend your life on earth, right? So what does he do? He lets an animal die in your place. You see the logic, right?
Yes.
So when you bring the blood, God sees the blood. That means, all right, this animal dies in your place. The soul of the animal is now given up so that your soul can remain in your body. So the animal's soul leaves, the animal dies, so your soul remains in your body and you live. See the connection, right?
Yes.
But because animals are not equal to humans in value, this is what I'm hammering. I want to make sure I hammer this. No animal can ever be equivalent to a single human life because animals are inferior in value to humans. Hence why they're constantly being sacrificed, correct?
Correct.
Now, how does it tie in with the flesh and blood of Christ? Now I'm going to make the connection. Animal is not equal to human soul. Animal soul is not equal to a human soul. And hence, no matter how many animals die, they can never get the job done. So all they can do is provide temporary relief, temporary covering for a human problem that no animal can solve because animals are not equal to a human life. We hammered that point, right?
You're right.
Therefore, I've said to the children of Israel, no person among you may eat blood, nor may any stranger who lives as a foreigner among you eat blood. You do not eat blood because that means you're eating the life of an animal. So the animal's life is now becoming part of your life. You're taking in that animal life, ingesting that animal life. You're becoming one with that animal life, one with that animal soul, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to do that, God says.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you dare do that. Don't take in the life of the animal. Don't eat the life of the animal. Don't make that animal life one with your life. See the logic?
Yeah.
Let me know if I'm confusing you. If not, if you're seeing, because you're going to see how it ties in with the flesh and blood of Christ. So
No,
far,
this
no,
makes
right?
sense. Yes, it makes sense.
Whatever man there is of the children of Israel, or of the strangers who live as foreigners among them, who takes in hunting any animal or bird that may be eaten, he shall pour out its blood and cover with dust. You do not eat the blood, because by eating the blood, you are eating the soul, becoming one with the life and soul of the animal. For as to the life of all flesh, its blood is with its life. Now remember, the word life means soul, right?
Yes.
Now, does everyone see God has connected blood with soul? So notice the blood is not identical to the soul, but the blood is connected with the soul, so that your soul will only remain in your body as long as there's blood. The blood is poured out, your soul has to leave. So everyone sees that. You're seeing this too?
Yes, I am.
All right. Everyone else on Rumble, you're getting it? Okay. So that's why you don't eat the blood, because in eating the blood, you're taking in the soul, because the soul and the blood are connected. Therefore, I said to the children of Israel, you shall not eat the blood of any kind of flesh, for the life, the soul of all flesh is its blood. Whoever eats it shall be cut off. So you do not eat the blood of the animal, because in eating the blood, you're taking in the life, the soul of the animal. You're being one with the animal. The animal's life is becoming your life. The animal's soul is becoming your soul. Your soul and the animal's soul are being united. Don't do that. Now then, you see why Jesus says, eat my flesh and drink my blood. Do you notice the connection? The blood and the flesh are connected with the soul.
Yep.
For the life of the flesh is in the blood. So notice, life, flesh, blood. Now I'm going to show you the word life, and you're now going to see the beauty of our Jesus. Now it's going to blow your mind away. I'm going to show you what this word for life is. I'm going to connect it with Jesus. Now, guys, get ready. I've done sessions on this, but creatures of repetition. Why the early church understood you have to take in the physical flesh and blood of Christ. Now watch here. What is the word for life? Let's see if I'm making it up. You see here, nephesh. What is nephesh? Nephesh, soul. So was I lying?
Nope.
Soul. All right. So now note the three elements. Nephesh, life, soul. Basar, flesh. Dam, blood. Bedam, blood. Soul, life, flesh, blood. He gives you his flesh. He gives you his blood. So you take in his life and make it yours.
Got it.
Did the light switch go on?
Yes.
You see why he says, eat my flesh and drink my blood? Because when I eat his flesh, take his blood, his life becomes my life, but his life is incorruptible life. So I take in incorruption. So this corruption is now being transformed and being made incorruptible.
As you were
What's going on
saying,
with
it's like it's progressive throughout your life. You partake in the Holy Eucharist many
Yes,
times.
because the more you take in his incorruptible life, the more your corruptible flesh becomes transformed into incorruptible flesh. Because eventually his life takes over. His life becomes your life.
That's beautiful.
Now you see the wisdom, huh? Now, what did Jesus give up for our salvation? Remember I said the word life, nephesh, means soul? For the Son of Man not came to be served, but to serve and give the life of him. Guess what the word life is? Psyche is the word soul. He came to give you his soul. Psyche, what is that word? It's the Greek equivalent of nephesh, soul. So Jesus said, I came to give you my soul. And that's where you get the word psychology. Psychotic. Psyche, psychology. Logos, psyches, meaning study of the mind, the soul, the inner person. Now, do you see why the Lord said, eat my flesh, drink my blood? Because when I eat his flesh, drink his blood, I'm taking in his life, his soul, his incorruptible life. And so now, why is it that Jesus says, in his case, we eat his flesh, drink his blood, but not the animal? Because let's go back to the logic. An animal is not equal to a human soul. So the soul that sins shall die, life for life. Well, an animal life is not equivalent to a human life. It's inferior, right?
Yeah.
So there's no point in taking in the animal life. It can't do anything for you.
That's correct.
No, what about a human life? Well, no. Remember what we said. Even if there's a perfect human life, and he were to give up his life, he can only save another life, right?
Yep.
Because no human is greater than another human. So if it's merely a human who's perfect that dies, he can only cover the debt of one. But
Yeah.
add to the fact that there is no sinless human apart from grace of God. That means everyone needs to be saved. That's why Mary herself needed to be saved. So then, who can then offer a sacrifice that would be sufficient to save all human souls and sufficient to give incorruptible life to everyone?
The one that's greater than us.
All humans, right?
Yes.
But that would mean the God-man.
Yeah.
Because
Jesus
Jesus is
Christ.
God. Exactly. Jesus is God. So his value is infinite. He is infinitely greater than all creation combined. But how can he then give you his soul? And how can he pay your debt of sin when that requires a human sacrifice, human death? Because remember, the soul that sin shall die. So if you're a human being, you die human death. But Jesus, as God, is spirit. How then does he die the death we deserve in order to pay the debt of sin that we owe if he's simply God and he's not human?
Yeah. And that's why he had to come in the flesh.
You got it. Now it all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That's it. That's why now he says, now in my case, you must eat my flesh and drink blood, because my flesh and blood is what will give you my incorruptible life.
Mm.
You can't do it with the animal, because the animal cannot give you incorruptible life, because the animal itself is decaying and dying, and animal life is not equal to a human life, human soul.
Yeah.
So you don't eat their flesh. I'm sorry, you don't eat their blood, but my blood and flesh you must take. So notice the connection between flesh, blood, and soul, flesh, blood, and life. So Jesus gives his soul life on the cross, so that now you can eat his flesh and blood and take in his incorruptibility, incorruption, and make it one with you.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why Paul can say here, Galatians 2:20, I'm no longer living. It's Christ living his life in me.
Mm.
Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. That life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. Christ is living his life in and through me. This is the wisdom of the Eucharist.